to this week's edition of Beyond Wall Street, the show that's committed to helping take the mystery out of Wall Street and help it make sense for you on your street. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and I'm joined today by Kenny Porter. He is the president of Kenneth Porter and Company. Kenny, my goodness, you have been so busy. I know you've been getting a lot of calls off the television show. You are so busy with your podcast, with Instagram, with local workshops that you do. But I would love for our viewers at home to hear a little bit more about your podcast, how that came to be, and how they can also follow you in that medium.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kristen. So great to see you, by the way.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well.
So our podcast started out of this misery of COVID. Mm-hmm. And so my son-in-law, who's in the movie business behind the camera, was out of work. Mm-hmm. And my firm was going through the same crisis everyone else was going through in terms of being able to meet face-to-face with clients. Mm-hmm. So I turned my office into my studio, and we started communicating with our clients through our podcast, through webinars, and the podcast became something that was just a lot of fun. We do a video podcast.
Awesome.
And so, you know, kind of like our studio here, we have 3 cameras set up, a production crew behind the scene, and I get the opportunity to interview business owners, and business owners specifically that we have just kind of found this niche with is business owners who happen to have a military career. You know, being in Hampton Roads, we have a significant military presence. I'm a prior Marine, simplified all the Marines out there. But, you know, in this podcast, I interview these military members and veterans and really just dig down deep into what makes them tick. What transition took place when they went from a uniformed military member to a business owner? What are the uniqueness or the unique features of both? Right. The advantages and disadvantages to both. And being able to just get insight from another business owner has been wonderful. And, you know, in chaos lies opportunity. Absolutely. And so in the chaos of COVID, we said, man, we've got to innovate. And we did that through our media. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's so cool. And what is the name of the podcast so folks can look it up?
Yeah, thanks. It's called KP's Black Box. So KP apostrophe S, Black Box. And, you know, people are like, well, Kenny, what does Black Box mean? So I pulled that show term from the idea of if a plane went down and, you know, if you had an unfortunate accident in aviation, the first thing they always go to, or the first thing you hear the media talk about, is the black box. Right. Because the black box pulls together all the information leading up to the incident, and if it can collect data after that, what happened afterwards. So we want to get the black box secrets to what's going on in people's financial life, and you know, what makes them tick as a business owner, what strategies are they using to, you know, mitigate all the risks that are approaching all of us in our accumulation and distribution phase, both as individuals and business owners. So that show gives me the opportunity to share with our community what other business owners are doing, and it's a lot of fun.
I bet. I love that you're doing that. Well, let's dive into some black box secrets. That's a tongue twister.
Tongue twister,
right? Say that 5
you got it out
fast, right? But specifically, let's look at some secrets surrounding income planning today, because I know that is a huge part of the retirement planning process. It's a huge part of what you help folks do. Yeah. So gosh, there's so much to unpack here. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think we can start back with the history of income planning. You know, it's a relatively new thought process. And the reason is that years ago, we didn't require a lot of income planning because major corporations provided the employee a defined benefit plan. Right. Or what we would refer to as a pension. And so there was the guaranteed income from Social Security, and we'll talk about that today and the requirements of that. And then if you gave an employer, you know, 20, 25, 30 years of your life, then they would in exchange give you a lifetime income. And it was backed by the federal government, typically through the PBGC, which is the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. And what happened was around 1976, and you can actually go look this guy up. His name's Ted Benna. So Ted is famous for being this pension consultant that moved us from the defined benefit era to the defined contribution era that we're in now.
Right.
So now we still have income planning needs, but we don't have the benefit of a pension plan. Now,
Right.
full disclosure, in Hampton Roads, we have a lot of military. We have a lot of government workers who are contributing to TSP or Thrift Savings Plan.
Yes.
But they also get the benefit of a pension. Not all of our clients are that fortunate.
Right.
You know, they may be a government contractor, they may be working in a support role for the government, but they don't get to participate in FERS or the Federal Employee Retirement System. So they have to create their own pension plan. And that their own pension plan is usually created through what's called defined contribution plans. So defined contribution plan, the difference is that you, the consumer, you, the saver, are responsible for saving in your own private plan.
Right.
Now, here's what happens, Kristen. You know, when you have this defined contribution plan, if you've done a really good job, maybe you've saved up $500,000, $1 million, maybe $2 million.
And you're talking about things like 401ks.
401ks,
right? If you have a
TSP,
403b, right? Yeah.
These different type of qualified
IRAs.
plans.
Yeah.
IRAs, exactly right. And so consumers never really think about that in the form of it's got to create a lifetime benefit or lifetime income. And so we really try to get clients to think about what we call the KP 121 rule.
Okay.
And people go, well, Kenny, what's the KP 121 rule? And that is that you and I, according to a Harvard mortality study that was done in 2001, we have the potential to make it out to 121 years. That doesn't mean we're going to make it, but back in the day in the 1950s, there was this commissioner's mortality table, and those mortality tables went to 100. That changed in the early 2000s to be on this now new Harvard mortality tables, where the federal government pension plans have to calculate life expectancy based on this table out to 121.
Right.
So what that tells me is that we Americans are living a long time. And one of my professors that I've dealt with over the years, a guy named Dr. Lawrence Kotlikoff, he's the foremost expert on Social Security planning and sovereign pension plans. And he has a quote. He says, plan to live a long time because you might. And so when it comes to income planning, we have to plan for a long period. And it's important to understand the process and methodology to get there. We want to pretend like we have a pension.
Right.
So when we see this big lump sum sitting inside of our 401k, our IRAs, you're not going to spend that all at once.
Right.
You have to spend that money strategically and systematically over your lifetime and do it in such a way that you can mitigate and minimize the longevity risk and then mitigate and minimize the tax risk.
Yes.
So we create income distribution plans to help people understand how to efficiently and effectively do that by mitigating those longevity risks and those tax risks.
And this is, like you said, relatively new, not only the switch from defined benefit to defined contribution plans, but the issue is that previous generations didn't have this 30-year span to worry about. I mean, a lot of people were retiring at 62 and then passing away at 65. They didn't have this gap of time that they had to fill with income, but now we could easily be living another 30, 40 plus years. That's like another lifetime, career working
exactly
time,
right. So
right?
that's why it's important to understand how and when to take something like Social Security.
Yes.
Now, if you're depending on Social Security to be your main stream of income, then we're probably not a good fit to help you if that's your only stream of income. But if you've done a good job and you've done a good job of saving money, then it's likely that you're going to have a Social Security benefit, maybe two, maybe you and your spouse.
Right.
And there's really some rules you have to look at. And I jotted down some rules today. There's 81 age combinations that we have to think about and 96 different months to choose from. And I'm going to come back and share with you a few more that we need to think about at our break.
Absolutely, because we do need to take a quick commercial break, but holy moly, so much to unpack with Social Security, so I definitely want to get back to that. But for our viewers at home, if you would like to meet with Kenny and his team and get your own complimentary portfolio review, All you need to do is just call the number on the bottom of your screen, 844-575-8071. You're also welcome to take out your smartphone. Simply scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few simple questions, and then a member of Kenny's team will reach back out to you to set up your time to come in and meet to get your complimentary portfolio review. We have so much more to cover. How do you know when the right time is to claim Social Security for you to make sure that you're going to have enough income to last throughout your retirement? We'll answer that question right after this.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there every square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion...
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Beyond Wall Street. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Kenny Porter, president of Kenneth Porter and Company, and we are talking today all about income planning for retirement. How do you know that you're going to have enough money to last you throughout the years that you have left in retirement? And Kenny, before the break, you started talking about Social Security, and oh my goodness, there's so much to unpack here.
Yeah.
Walk us through, because I know that a common question folks have is, when should I start claiming Social Security?
Yeah.
So I know you started mentioning there's all these different age combinations,
Yeah.
so walk us through this process.
Yeah, so it's the timing and sequence, and it really comes back to what we were talking about before the break, is that if you're depending on Social Security to be your only source of income, then that's an unfortunate issue. You're probably going to have to continue to work in retirement. But if you've done a good job and you have other assets beyond your Social Security, then there's some calculations that need to be done, because there's 81 different age combinations that can come into play, 96 different months that you can choose from to actually draw. There's over 567 mathematical calculations, and all within what's called the Program Operating Manual. And that's a mouthful. But really what it means is that the Social Security Administration has a number of different sequences and timing of when you take a benefit and how much you're going to get. Under traditional rules, you can take it as early as 62, but you have to be careful with how much income you make between 62 and your full retirement age.
Right, because if you're still working, then there's other implications
there can be
for that.
penalties or dollars withheld from your Social Security benefits. So it could be as much as $3 for every one you're making in Social Security could be taken away from you. And so you have to look at these factors and understand the timing and sequence, which comes back to those other retirement accounts. If you want to maximize your Social Security benefit, you not only need to look at your timing in that, but also your spouse's timing in that. And so it's a combination between the two. And obviously there's 40 credit hours, and you've got 4 credits per year maximum you can take. And so there has to be basically 10 years of work.
Of work history.
Work history. And then, you know, where most pension plans might use your high 3 or high 5 earning years, Social Security looks at your 35 highest earning years. So if you're like me, if you started working at 16 years old and paying into Social Security, those were probably low wage earning years. So the longer you work at a higher wage earning year or higher capacity, then you're going to replace some of those lower years of your work history.
Right.
And that's important because that can give you a pay raise. So that may be something to consider, that if you do an analysis on your 35 earning years,
Right.
and you're in some high income earning years in those last few, it may make sense to finish out with 2 or 3 more years on the end to replace some of those lower years you may have had.
Yeah.
Retirement benefits, each person has their own full retirement age.
Which is based
Okay.
on the year you were born.
Based on the
right?
year
So
you were
Look
born.
at the chart, figure that out.
That's right. But
Yeah.
let's say for most people, it's 66 in a few months. Well, from 66 to 70, each year that you wait, the government gives you a substantial increase of 8%. So by the time you get to 70 years old, if you can wait that long to take it, you have a 132% increase over your full retirement age calculation. And that's significant when you think about lifetime income.
Yes.
And so looking at your other assets, looking at something like TSP, 401k, when you start taking distributions from those, it may make sense from a tax strategy point of view to actually delay the Social Security and take income from your taxable accounts like your IRAs, 401ks,
Right.
versus waiting until, say, age 73 for your required minimum distribution. Start earlier because you've got this other guaranteed piece that's going to pick up to be
Right.
that offset in your distribution plan.
Because what a lot of folks don't realize is once you claim Social Security, you know, I hear a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm 62, yay, I'm going to go ahead and claim. But what that does is that locks you in at that lower amount, and then you're locked in at that lower amount for the rest of your life.
That's right. And I hear so many people going, well, Kenny, I don't think the Social Security system is going to be around. And, you know, if the Social Security system goes away, you have more to worry about than Social Security itself. The likelihood of the federal government doing away with Social Security is slim to none. The number one reason is that by 2035, we're going to have almost 85 million Americans taking from this system,
Right.
distributing money from the system. So when you think about, there's about 335, 370 million people in the US. And when you think a third of our population is retirees by 2035, that's a pretty powerful voting segment
Oh, yes.
of our population.
Right.
So you have the right, Mr. and Mrs. Klein out there, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, to vote your fiscal responsibility. And so thinking through this, when you have these risks, longevity risk is something you really need to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
Because it's not a promise that you're going to live a long, healthy life. I pray that for you. But you can live a long time with dread disease. You can live a long time with illness. And so delaying Social Security could be really in your best interest if you have other assets to pull from along the way.
Right. Well, it's interesting because over 40% of Americans currently rely on Social Security to be half of their retirement income. And
Yeah.
the scary thing is Social Security was never meant to be anyone's sole source of retirement
No.
income. It was to be a supplement and to be a safety net. So to your point, though, it is an important piece of the financial planning puzzle. And if someone is in the position where they don't necessarily need it sooner, okay, then how can they employ generating income for themselves from these other investments
Yeah.
that they've saved up? And so I know we're going to have to cut to another commercial break, but talk to us about this complementary portfolio review and how you're able to walk folks through this income planning process.
Yeah, thanks for teeing that up for me. I appreciate that. So in our complimentary review, we will actually do a Social Security analysis for you. We will give you a report that will help you understand the timing and sequence of when you should take Social Security, when your spouse should take Social Security, and what type of Social Security benefit you would take. That's part of our overall complimentary review of where we're looking at your investment assets, we're looking at your qualified plans, your non-qualified plans, and inside this complimentary review, you're going to have a Social Security analysis that layers on top of our overall review. So if you'd like to take us up on that offer, just reach out to us at 844-575-8071, and our team will be standing by to get your name, your information, and schedule a time one-on-one with me to be able to go through that analysis, and we look forward to having that opportunity.
Kenny, thank you so much. And to our viewers at home, again, that number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 844-575-8071. You can also take out your smartphone and scan that QR code, and that will get you connected to be able to make your appointment to come in and get your complimentary portfolio review as well. When we come back, we're going to discuss some more important factors that affect your income planning and retirement. Stay with us.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back to Beyond Wall Street. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Kenny Porter, president of Kenneth Porter and Company. And Kenny, we are talking today all about income planning for retirement. And I know before the last break, we got really deep into Social Security and how many different factors come into play to deciding when is the right time for you to claim your Social Security check. But I'm curious, for a lot of folks, it might make sense to delay taking Social Security.
Yeah.
But as we know, there's always trade-offs. How we make
Right.
a decision in one area of our financial lives does affect the others. So what are some potential pitfalls for folks who are in a position where they want to delay claiming Social Security, but yet they still need to generate income
Yeah.
from their other assets?
So it's a great question, and I think it comes back to the age-old word of diversification. So when you're taking income from a source other than a guaranteed stream, like Social Security or a pension, you're now putting the weight and the pressure on the performance of the underlying investment. So if that underlying investment is exposed to, say, 100% equities, being in stocks and mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, those types of investments have inherent risk, investment risk. So if you're creating an income plan that's purely designed around an equities position so that you have this delay strategy with Social Security, you may want to consider having a distribution strategy that allocates money across very different sectors. Or like we refer to it as a non-correlated asset. So if we're going to take money from equities when the market's up, that's great,
Right.
really easy.
Yes.
But what about when the market's down? Should we be taking investments? I call it killing off the principal soldiers. If you're taking money from an investment when it's going down in value, you're also taking principal away that doesn't have the opportunity ever again to catch the ride back up.
Right.
We know markets will go up long term. We look at a 100-year history of the S&P 500, and just looking at that index alone, we've seen that has done well over 10%
Right.
on average.
Yes.
But averages can fool you. Averages can lead you down a path of calamity. It's because in order to get those averages, there'll be some years where you'll have negatives and some years where you'll do greater than 10. And those years that you're going into a portfolio into a negative position, like what we did from 2000 to 2009, and then what Forbes has just recently said is that we're headed into another lost decade. You have to be cognitive of the fact that your investments have risk of losing principal value.
Right.
And so if you don't create a strategy to mitigate and minimize against that, trying to delay Social Security could be a dangerous strategy without a really solid income distribution plan.
Well, I think this really speaks to the fact that every investment has a risk,
Right.
right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a matter of what kinds of risks are there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no getting out of that. But to your point, you want to try to really mitigate. We can't eliminate the risks, but we can mitigate the impact that they have, the
Yeah.
negative impact that they could have on our portfolios.
It's absolutely right, is that, when you think about the idea of risk, you want to be in a position where you have the ability to get a stream of income over a long period of time. And if you can do that safely, but still have the opportunity for that upside potential, that's a win-win.
Right.
And the thing to think about is that by the time you reach 70, let's say you could delay your Social Security to age 70, that some of that risk is going to be minimized just by having another income stream that reduces the drag on your wealth, that reduces the income you would have to take from other sources by Social Security coming into the picture. So, you know, we can break income into segments, maybe into pots of money, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and then maybe a 30 or 20-year plan for how we spend money. And the longer you have, the more risk you can take in your portfolio.
Absolutely.
But over shorter periods of time, we have to minimize and reduce that risk by not exposing it to market volatility.
Well, and I think what you're talking about too is when you have these different functions for money,
Yeah.
money has specific jobs to do for us.
That's right.
And so when you have these different buckets, it's like, okay, this money is designated for this, right? If this
Yeah.
situation happens, we pull from here versus if this happens, we pull from over here.
Exactly right. And so if folks would like to take us up on an opportunity to see how we would do that, we call that a second opinion review. And you and I have said on previous shows, you know, you can never get a second opinion from the first person that gave it to you.
Right.
So what we would like to offer you today is an opportunity to have a complimentary review with us where we're going to examine everything from your Social Security to your investments that are going to provide income in your distribution phase. If you'd like to take us up on that, 844-575-8071. You'll reach out to our team and they'll get you on my schedule where we can face-to-face or over a Zoom call, whatever you prefer, we can have a conversation with you about your income distribution plan and how safe it will be in your distribution phase.
Well, I'm sure the most common question folks have when they come in is, am I going to outlive my money, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the concern that you're trying to help address?
Yep. We don't want them to outlive their money. That is not a good day. So we want the income to last as long or longer than them. And then that gets into a whole nother segment on the legacy phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So much goes
important.
into this.
Yes, that's right.
We always run out of time because there's so much good content to cover. But Kenny, thank you so much. And
Thank
to our
you, Chris.
viewers at home, again, thank you so much for watching. And this is a great opportunity for you to have a second set of eyes come alongside you, take a comprehensive, holistic look at your financial plan. As we've talked about today, there's so many personal factors that far outweigh the math, from everything of when you should claim Social Security to which accounts you should withdraw from first in order to generate enough income that will last you throughout your retirement. Pick up the phone and call today, 844-575-8071 to get your complimentary portfolio review. We love you, Virginia Beach. We'll see you next week.